Welcome back to Tristan's Spectacular Picks for the 2025 NFL season as we go into week 4, the week before the bye weeks begin. How's it going, everyone? It's Tristan, folks, and we got week 4 of the 2025 NFL season next up. So as you already know, we got to make some picks. And we also do have some twists in the Eliminator Challenge, and I may or may not have taken the lead in the Pick'em League. But first, let's get right into the games and what I expect, as well as my analyzation, and this will help me decide who's going to win these 16 games. Let's roll. To open up Thursday Night Football, it's a divisional clash between the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. The Seahawks enter this game looking extremely good with wins in their past 2 games, while Arizona did not come out of their previous game against San Francisco very good, as they lost running back James Conner and possibly more in the offensive front due to the short timeline as they most recently played Sunday. For me, I am a big fan of momentum, and I really like what Seattle is doing since week 2, so I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks here. We have another international game in a new country, and this one's taking place in Dublin, Ireland. On the other hand, you could argue that both these teams looked more like themselves to some extent. Both the defenses showed out. We saw Minnesota's Isaiah Rodgers force 3 turnovers, and he took 2 of those turnovers to the end zone, as well as the Vikings having a total of 5 turnovers in that game. But Pittsburgh also had 5 turnovers in their game, and 80% of those turnovers were forced fumbles. As much as these things are good, we also saw Minnesota look good offensively with Jordan Mason at running back, who has potential to be good, and the veteran leadership under Carson Wentz at quarterback. With all that being accounted for, yet playing in an unknown atmosphere, even though the Scandinavians very well may take over upon their arrival to shore, I'm going to take the Vikings here. It just seems really fitting. Talking about veteran quarterbacks, we saw Marcus Mariota lead Washington to victory last week, and they also had 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground. For Atlanta, they had more yardage than their opponent, yet they just failed to score literally in every single way possible. There are some unknowns for the Commanders going into this game, but I would say the bigger question is, how is Atlanta going to respond after turning the ball over 5 times? I don't know that answer, but the last game did prove that Bijan Robinson cannot do all the work by himself, so I'm going to roll with Washington. It's another away game for the Saints after being smacked by Seattle, and they play a Super Bowl contender in the Buffalo Bills. One team has stars, well, it's really the opposite for the other side, which I feel this is obvious which sides I am referencing. It's a no-brainer. I have the Buffalo Bills. The Browns earned their first win of the season against what we thought was a Super Bowl contender, thanks to their spectacular defensive play the entire game that I knew they had, but I did not know it was like this. They'll be hosted by the Detroit Lions, who had an offensive explosion on Monday Night Football. And in this game, I do believe the Browns will continue to show that defensive effort, but the lack of points scored in their games is the problem for me. Detroit just has way too many weapons offensively for me, as I did reference that last week, and it does have their 2-headed monster with Gibbs and Montgomery in the backfield, and then they got St. Brown, let alone at wide receiver. So overall, I'm just going to go with Detroit here. We have a divisional matchup with both sides being 0-3. Tennessee hasn't had it easy, but nor has Houston. I do believe the Titans are not bad defensively, but the amount of pressure I feel they have with a lacking offense is not the greatest. Houston is better off, especially offensively, even though they are very banged up on that side of the ball. And I feel that just let alone can be enough this time around. It's going to be close by all means, but I am going to side with Houston. If they don't win, then Houston, we have a problem. The Panthers enter this game with their best showing in many, many years. The Patriots come into this game with an unfortunate loss, but that's due to the amount of turnovers they had, which is equal to how many takeaways Carolina had last week. I thought the Patriots did have it rough, while Carolina was lucky not to concede at least 6 points. Oddly enough, the team with less yards in their win ended up winning, and then New England, who had more yards in their game, they ended up losing. So I'm not sure how this is going to work, this time around, as I do see the Patriots fighting in every single game, and this one's going to be a nail biter, but I am going to go with the New England Patriots on a matter of a rising offense, even though the points really aren't showing it right now. The Chargers are 3-0, yet they did have an iffy game against Denver. The Giants were the opposite of 3-0, and interestingly enough, that was the cue to insert rookie quarterback Jackson Dart, and he'll be taking over for Russell Wilson, who had 2 interceptions against the Kansas City Chiefs. I did think that the Giants did good in that game, minus the loss. I know Rano was not completely healthy kicking, which did make play calling more difficult. And I just don't really know what we're going to see in Jackson Dart right now. And the Chargers were better in the run game last time out, so that's pretty good. And I feel if all things are running on all cylinders, it'll be the Chargers winning. Both teams are 3-0, so obviously someone is bound to lose for the first time this season. It's a matchup that we see fairly plenty, which is Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. And as I've said before, Philadelphia has not been at their best, and they have pulled off plenty of these wins off, if not all of them. But you can also say that's the same for my own team, as Baker Mayfield has had to lead Tampa 2-3 straight game-winning drives less than 2 minutes ago. So he's done it 3 for 3 times, getting to the end zone. And this is a team that can stop the tush-push, as they have on multiple occasions in the past. And they will possibly see the return of Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs on the offensive front. But they are not going to have Mike Evans and possibly more players on the defensive end. I don't know how in the world this game is going to truly play out, even though the trends do say that Tampa wins at home a lot against Philadelphia and in general. But I am going to be more confident in a healthy team, and that's the Eagles, so I'm throwing a curveball low-key. This game right here, I don't really even know what we are going to see. The Colts are 3-0, something I don't believe the majority of people expected. They're up against the Rams, who managed to blow a 26-3 lead and end up losing over the weekend. What I've put together, however, is the Colts have Daniel Indiana Jones, who is competent at quarterback, which he does have Michael Pittman Jr. We also got Jonathan Taylor running the ball with Spencer Schrader, who is very reliable at kicking field goals. And the Rams do have their veteran quarterback Matthew Stafford with more flexibility at wide receiver as well as running back. And this truly can go either way, but I do believe the Rams will be happy to be back at home and get a win in front of their home crowd after what happened in Week 3. Pick your poison on what game will be the best game during this timeline, aka more of the late afternoon games, because we got Mac Jones going up against his former team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Recently, Jacksonville came off a win against their divisional rival Houston, and I thought they were good defensively enough, even though it was harder to generate offense, which is not a surprise. But the one thing I do not like is Trevor Lawrence has thrown the same amount of interceptions as touchdown, and that is 4. And that needs to be better, but he could have some more time to throw the ball this game because San Francisco ended up losing Nick Bosa. And with that, I feel things will be easier for him this game, and it could turn into an offensive explosion. But I am going to do the same thing as last week when I say curveball. I'm going to pick Jacksonville, and not because my dad would have wanted me to pick Jacksonville. Someone is bound to be 1-3 after this game with 2 teams that ended up making the playoffs last year. And I do believe this game is clear-cut to me. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're just continuing to have the same problems every single week, while Baltimore just has not been able to hold up defensively, which that does need to change going into this game. But I do think it will, as long as Baltimore doesn't lose the football, aka Derrick Henry fumbling every single week. I also have you on fantasy, so stop. I do believe they'll manage to win, and maybe I'll get a little peek of this game in real life. And I'm totally not hinting of something. What a response from the Chicago Bears in Week 3, who smoked Dallas at home. We also saw Ben Johnson pull some tricks up his sleeves, which worked out brilliantly. They weren't great on the run, but I do feel this is the start of unlocking the potential of the Bears. They're up against the Las Vegas Raiders on the road, who have lost more than they've won, but they are competing in their games. especially both sides come into this after having their best offensive games, in my opinion. So you may wonder how this is going to translate. And for myself, it is really tough to predict this, but the fact that we do know that Chicago can be clever with their play calling, that is who I am going to go with. Las Vegas does have their weapons, and notably saw Trey Tucker explode for 3 touchdowns and 145 yards. But I just can't see something like that happening again, even though I do like the player a lot. This game has some meaning, and they both come into this game with unexpected losses. It's also the return of Micah Parsons to DFW under the lights on Sunday night. I'm not feeling the greatest about either team coming into this, so I do have to look back at things that have happened earlier throughout the season, and the key thing that does stand out is how good the Packers have been defensively with the addition of Parsons. That's honestly what I feel is going to come down to, and Dallas is not going to have CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 1 because he is injured. It's just going to come down to Mr. Attitude Problems, George Pickens, in that role. So I'm going to go with the Packers here. The Jets almost had their first win of the year, and you can say Miami was close, but ultimately they're both 0-3. They did look their best, and now we have this battle that I referenced last week of who won't finish last in the AFC East. And I expect Justin Fields to return. I'm sure Miami is desperate to get in the win column here. And for me, it does have the potential to, go both ways. And I did like what I saw in the Miami Dolphins more in week 3 than the New York Jets taking advantage of some misfortunes. So I'm going to give Miami the benefit of the doubt here, as I feel they are going to be better off offensively. But if this does go the other way, Mike McDaniel could be saying his goodbyes, even though I honestly don't see enough warranting that happening. A perfect Monday night in Denver, Colorado will end week 4. Previously, Cincinnati got smacked, while Denver lost again to a matter of a field goal with 0 seconds left on the clock. With what I saw from the Cincinnati Bengals with Jake Browning at quarterback once again, it is a complete massive concern, and they could not run the ball whatsoever. And that's just not going to do it if you want to win. And you're going against Denver, who can stop the run. But what can happen contend in this game is if Sean Payton just continues his poor play calling, which we are seeing every single week, and the Denver Broncos are making games more difficult than they should be. And I expect a mixture of both of these aspects, but Denver should be able to pull it off in front of their home crowd and have the advantage of playing in the Rockies. Now for the tiebreaker, as mentioned, this is the last game of week 4 between Cincinnati and Denver. Because of all of these factors that I just brought up, I do have this being a 28-10 scoreline. I do have the Denver Broncos winning this game. I do feel this is going to be the easiest game of the year, but they better not make it complicated. Now, we look at the Elimination Challenge, and I lost my primary entry after the Green Bay Packers lost to the Cleveland Browns. Gone! It's all gone. Oh, that's gone. Bye-bye. Woo! See ya! I knew Cleveland had a good defense, but I honestly did not think that simply the loss of Jaden Reed for the Green Bay Packers was going to feel like the end of the world suddenly. It didn't help that Cleveland blocked a field goal at the end, and they made one the other way around at the end of the game. But this game should have been taken care of, however, and Packers fans know it too. Now, we have 2 entries left, and I only feel one of these is 100% clear cut, especially after seeing what happened in week 3. So we're going to start with, we'll call it entry 2 still, and that's going to be the Buffalo Bills. We've used them in entry 3 earlier, so the Bills, they're home against the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are not any better than them on a significant level, and I just feel this one is, clear cut, and no more needs to be said. So we're going to have entry 3 now, and I'm a little worried after what just happened, but this one's going to be the Detroit Lions, and they're going to be the next team to deal with the defensive Cleveland Browns. But we've talked about it before, and I like their offensive flexibility. The choice wasn't easy, but I do feel it's a matter of the Lions just continuing to use their effective run game and then you got St. Brown, and then you also got a bunch of underrated wide receivers as well. And those are players that I feel can give the Browns a lot more problems. And this has the chance to be close early on, but I just see Detroit getting control of the game at home and not being the second victim out of NFC North back-to-back weeks to the Cleveland Browns. Lastly, looking at the Pick'em League, I won. I went 12 for 16, like I literally have all season so far. But, you know, it was enough for me to win all alone over Lucas and Zach, who tied for second. And we look towards the bottom. Max had an awful week. So thanks, Max. We're friends again. And we did only have 8 people compete this week since 2 others were on a cruise and their picks were not saved for some reason. And because of how everyone scored, I ended up taking the lead in the league with Zach moving up tied for second with Max. It's essentially a 6-car breakaway using NASCAR terms, and then it's fairly scattered out back. So overall, I am feeling very good. Now we're going to take a look on how we did on the games and being mindful. We had 8 people vote for every game minus Thursday Night Football, which was 7. And it wasn't the best week for many. So once again, we go 100% on 6 out of these 16 games, which was the same as week 2 and then 1 off from week 1. And we are having that consistency, so that's good. And I am surprised no one dared to vote any other teams here, as you could have done that for a couple of these. But on the other hand, we went 0% on 4 of the games, which is 3 worse than week 2 last week and 2 worse than week 1, meaning this is the worst we've done as a group. And I can also say 3 out of the 4 of these games, the results were just completely unexpected. But I am surprised that nobody gave Detroit a fair shot to win in the last game in week 3. And believe it or not, these were all the games that I actually missed specifically, so maybe everybody's just copying me. So I wonder what week 4 will be like. I'm watching y'all. Now, for your favorite segment, let's see what Tristan thinks of his sayings back from week 3.
And Atlanta acquired Parker Romo, who went 5 for 5 on field goals in the battle of the field goal kicking competition.
And then he got a complete F in week 3.
I believe Atlanta will be. They did lose Jaden Reed, but they're also going up against Cleveland. The Browns did show some fight defensively in week 2, but they eventually got worn down. And I expect the same thing against what appears to be an elite team. So in return, I am going with the Green Bay Packers here. I expect the Vikings defense to pressure Browning, and I do trust a veteran quarterback in Carson Wentz.
I didn't mean 5 turnovers.
Be where it should be. However, I do feel that the travel is going to be the difference in some way, somehow.
I think the travel was a factor, but I don't know about blowing a 26-3 lead though. I'm going to be honest about that by all means.
I'll be honest, you may think that this game right here is going to be clear cut with one team being 2-0 and the other 0-2. But I don't believe that whatsoever.
IQ.
The Jets, I thought the Dallas Cowboys would have not allowed as many points as they did.
And then they did it again.
The Chicago Bears, on the other hand, the last thing they wanted to go up against is a quarterback with the most passing yards in the NFL, and that's Russell Wilson at 680 yards. He did explode last week.
Times had changed.
I do believe fairly confident with these options. So first, we have the Green Bay Packers. It is an away game. But
I should have put Seattle in entry 1. Thanks everyone for watching this week 4 edition. This will also be the last video filmed in this house for the foreseeable future. So thanks to the guys who let me stay here since August. Hope everybody has a blessed week. And we'll catch you for week 5 wherever I may be. Take care, y'all.